All right, this news just broke. I think Tom Pelissero and what Schefter or Rap Sheet or whoever broke the news here. This was always a possibility, but it is official now. The NFL is appealing Deshaun Watson's 6-game suspension ruling suggestion from Judge Sue L. Robinson, which means basically this whole thing has just started with this whole Deshaun Watson ruling. Ultimately, what's going to happen here is going to be based on what the NFL is appealing and trying to achieve with the appeal. So if the NFL is appealing and trying to get like a year, odds are that this thing goes to federal court, gets appealed by Deshaun Watson's people, and so on and so forth. If the NFL decides they want to appeal and maybe go to 8 games and maybe go to like a more steeper financial suspension, financial fine here for Deshaun Watson, I don't know how that plays out, right? There are multiple ways for this to play out in which it can be no games, just money. It can be 2 games, no more money. I think either way, the NFL is going to add a hefty fine to this situation, right? I think they're going to go for the fine at the very least. We'll see if they add games on it, but that's the news right now, is that the NFL has decided to file an appeal for Deshaun Watson's 6-game suspension. I believe the appeal will happen. I think there's something about like, hey, the NFLPA has 2 days to respond to the NFL's ruling here. Now, the interesting thing, right, if you've read Sue L. Robinson's report, is basically what she said in her ruling was she found Deshaun Watson guilty of violating the personal conduct policy, but found that there were not sufficient enough guidelines in the CBA to suspend a player for a full season or indefinitely like the NFL wanted, because the language in the CBA did not exist. Thus, it's unfair to suspend a player for a certain amount of games that you want to suspend them for when the guidelines in the CBA are nowhere close to that. That's why he got the 6-game suspension. That's kind of the basis of a ruling. She thought Deshaun Watson was wrong and she thought the league was wrong, but the league being wrong in writing was ultimately why she suggested this to be 6 games, because she was like, hey, I want to give him more, but you have nothing in the CBA prior to this and even now that would allow me to go forward. So we'll see what the NFL tries to push for. If they get greedy here and try to go for the whole year, this is going to end up in federal court. There could be a TRO, which would basically put the suspension on pause, or any suspension on pause, and Deshaun Watson would then effectively be able to play week 1. If that's the case, this thing, and I told people from the beginning, is not going away easy. It's not just going to be they're going to announce a suspension. This is going to be something we're going to talk about at least for the duration of Deshaun Watson's current contract. Maybe if 5 years he has nothing else pop up, he serves his suspension, whatever the suspension is, it'll go away then, or at least be less prominent. But during the length of this contract, it's always going to be a point of conversation when it comes to Deshaun Watson. It's going to be one of the prominent points of conversation when it comes to Deshaun Watson, because again, this is partly what the Browns traded for, was this baggage here. So again, we don't know what the NFL is pushing for right now. We don't know what the league is trying to achieve here, but we'll see. We'll see what happens here with the NFL suspension, what they're going to push for. My best guess, and this is a guess, this is not me knowing anything. This is a complete 1,000% guess here. They probably try to push it to 12 and a $10 million fine. I think they try to force that deal that they offered Deshaun Watson before the suspension, before Judge Robinson's ruling. And I think ultimately this probably gets negotiated between the two sides to avoid a federal court ruling on this whole thing, because I don't think the league wants that, and I don't think Deshaun Watson wants that either. I don't think either side wants this to go federal. But if it has to, it will. And I think that being known, we probably get a deal here. It probably ends up, I would expect a hefty fine for Watson, which I have no feelings on that whatsoever. Like $10 million fine. He should be good for it. But probably 2 more games. I would say 2 more games are probably going to be added on. If they settle this out, they could take it to court. It could stay at 6. We'll see. We'll see what the league does. We'll see how dirty the league wants their hands to be in this situation. But that is the main news here coming out of camp, is that Deshaun Watson's suspension will be appealed. So this is going to be a long ride. This suspension could be ruled before the season, done with federal court before the season, or it could linger all the way into the middle of the season, and Deshaun Watson could play like 8 weeks and get suspended for the rest of the year. We have no idea what this is going to look like. So strap in. Just when you thought it was over, it really just started. So that's where we're at with that. Other news from camp. Let's go through position by position on what I've heard so far from camp. It's going to sound weird, but the quarterback play has been pretty good out of camp, both from Jacoby Brissett and Deshaun Watson, from everything that I've heard and seen coming out of camp. Also, obviously, the run backs look good. I've seen a lot of good stuff from Jerome Ford. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, but I've seen some good stuff from there. And then Harrison Bryant is becoming a name that's popping up there a lot in Berea. A lot of people talking about Harrison. I think Harrison has a lot of potential, a great amount of it. We'll see what happens with that. Michael Woods, the 6th or 7th round draft pick from the Cleveland Browns out of Oklahoma. He's been looking great in camp. A lot of people are excited about the potential of him making the 53-man roster there. And he has the opportunity to step up while other players are out. David Bell, Isaiah Weston, Anthony Schwartz, all out. He's going to get a chance to play with the ones and make an impression there. So we'll see what happens with him on that front. And then defensively, Perrion, he's been with the second team. Nothing's been popping out there, especially. Nothing really to report on defensively. Defense looks very solid, as they have throughout this whole camp process. But that's the main news coming out of camp. Team looks fine. Still a really strong roster, but this Deshaun Watson situation not going anywhere. And as far as what this means on his impact on how many games he's going to be able to play this year, have no idea. Could be 6 still, could be 6 with the heavy fine, could be 8 with the heavy fine, could be 12, 16, who knows? Who knows what the NFL is going to go for, and who knows what the NFLPA is going to go after in court, and who knows how that's going to end up, right? He could get the TRO, play week 1, play throughout the duration of this federal trial. I can't imagine how much money Deshaun Watson has paid lawyers over the last 2 years, but it's going to get even higher there. But yeah, it's going to continue on. It's going to be a thing. I think for Browns fans, we should just brace up for this being a thing for a while here. It's not going to get resolved before the season starts. I think this is going to linger on. But we'll see what happens with this appeal. I expect the appeal news to come in really fast, because this is like what they're appealing to Roger Goodell, and Roger's going to make the final decision on what he feels like the NFL should do suspension-wise. This is going to be a pretty quick process for that. The long process isn't going to be the NFL's appeal ruling. It's going to be whether this thing goes to federal court, whether Deshaun Watson can get a TRO while this is in federal court, and everything else involved with that. Obviously, the league feels like this is going to go one way. The NFLPA feels like it's going to go another, because they felt like if the NFL could somehow get away with giving Deshaun Watson a full year suspension, they would have taken the deal there at 12 games that was offered by the NFL and reported, where the NFL said $10 million in 12 games. NFLPA didn't take that. They're very confident that it won't go to a year. or at the end of the day, this won't be a year-long suspension. So strap in, y'all. Strap in. I know. We all want to be done with this, but it is what it is. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.